Wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord. It is Saturday, the 3rd day of September, 2022. My name is Clive Welsh, and it's time for the reading of our devotional thought for today, which is entitled, A Word to Wives. And the scripture reading today, Ephesians chapter 5, verse 22, which reads, Wives, submit to your own husbands as to the Lord. Alistair Begg writes, the word submission tends to trigger all kinds of negative responses. This is due in part to the reality that, as John Stott wrote over 40 years ago, submission to authority is out of fashion today. It is totally at variance and with contemporary attitudes of permissiveness and freedom. The intervening 4 decades have only increased submission's negative reputation, and nowhere more so than within marriage. Yes, the fact remains, properly understood and rightly applied, submission lies at the heart of relationships as God established them. Children are to submit to their parents, Ephesians 6, verse 1. Church members are to submit to their church leaders, Hebrews chapter 13, verse 7. And here, wives are to submit to their husbands as to the Lord. Submission to others, depending on the role to which we are called in life, is part and parcel of our relationship with each other. A wife's submission to her husband reflects God's divine ordering for marriage then. But how specifically are we to understand this teaching? First of all, the directive for a wife to submit to her husband in no way implies her inferiority. The Bible is clear, very clear, that men and women are equal in dignity, as both are made in God's image. Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. As believers, we are also equal in redemption, and that equality is seen in the fact that we are heirs together of the grace of God. 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 7. Our standing as men and women before God is entirely equal. A difference in role does not mean a difference in value. Second, women are to submit to their own husbands, not all men in general. Paul isn't giving a blanket instruction about the place of a woman in society. He is giving a specific directive concerning the wife's role in the family. Within that context, a woman's desire to submit to the Lord is revealed in part by her submission to her husband. Third, this submission isn't the same as unconditional obedience. Husbands are not to coerce their wives, nor are they to call them to submit, and certainly not to that which the Lord has not ordained. A wife is not in the hands of one who has the authority to command what he pleases. Rather, a husband is to love his wife as himself, to give himself up for her and to lead her in holiness. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 33. If you are a husband, then it needs to be underlined that if at any point you seek to lead your wife away from obedience to Christ rather than deeper into it, your wife is under no biblical obligation to follow your lead. If you are a wife, the Bible does not call you to slavish, unthinking obedience. Rather, your submission is to be a joyful loyalty to and contentment to following the lead of your husband as part of your mutual partnership which pursues God's glory in all things. Wholehearted and without reluctance, this kind of submission is only possible by God's enabling, so that you might do your husband good and not harm all the days of your life. Proverbs chapter 31, verse 12. The biblical submission is certainly not fashionable. It is often not easy, but in the sight of God and His people, it is beautiful. And it truly is a beautiful thing to behold when we do things God's way, the right way. What a blessing it is indeed. Well, that concludes our devotional thought for today. And for those of you reading through the scriptures, your reading today is Psalms 140 through 142 and 2 Corinthians chapter 12. And may the Lord richly bless you. My name is Clive Welsh.